Hi, I'm Robert. Welcome back to another On the Road video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com. Stop. Before you begin any repair, unplug the appliance from the wall outlet. It is also recommended that you check for proper voltage. Tools and supplies you will need for this repair are 1/4-inch driver, wire cutters, wire strippers, butt connectors of appropriate size, shrink wrap of appropriate size, and silicone. Today we will be replacing the defrost bimetal on this Frigidaire top mount refrigerator. The customer's complaint was that the fresh food section was not cooling. Things were starting to thaw in the top of the freezer. We've determined that the bimetal was open and not allowing power to the heater. To begin this repair, you must first remove the evaporator cover. We'll open the door and remove the shelf. The shelf is removed by sliding it that way and then tipping the shelf up and pulling it back this way to the right. Usually you will find some rubber bushings that are attached to the shelf that would have to be removed prior to removing the shelf, and they'll just pull off. They're on kind of tight. And if the unit's cold, you can heat them up a little bit with a lighter or a hair dryer to get them to pop off the shelf easily. So you see we have the shelf tilted as far up as it will go, and we can slide it right out. Next, we'll remove the 2 screws that hold the evaporator cover in place. Your 1/4-inch hex screws, one on each side. Set those aside. Now we will lift up on the air tower and slide the top out first. And we will reach back and unplug the Molex plug on the back wall. Now that we've unplugged the Molex plug, we can take the entire cover assembly out, and your cover is removed. Now with the evaporator cover panel completely removed, we have clear access to the defrost bimetal. It sits on the pipe, the suction line pipe, via a small clip at the bottom. To remove it, you're just going to put some pressure on the clip and push back on the bimetal. We'll unplug the Molex plug on the heater, and then we'll bring the bimetal through and pull the wire out of the clip that retains it to the back wall. Now we're going to take our wire cutters and we're going to cut the wire that goes back beyond the Molex plug, and your bimetal is removed. Now that we have a new defrost bimetal, let's go ahead and install that. Before we can install it, we have to do a little bit of work. I've prepped it by cutting the wires to the size I would need. And what we're going to do is we're going to strip the ends of the wire by no more than 1/4 inch. like to twist the wire a bit, just make sure it's nice and neat, because I'm going to be putting it into butt connectors. Now, we'll take a butt connector and we'll slide it on to the end of the wire. And we'll take our crimpers, and you want to use the ball end right here, and get that over the butt connector, close to the shoulder, and then press down as hard as you can and get a nice crimp on that wire. Make sure it's on nice and tight, and then we're going to repeat that process on the other wire. Then we're going to take our shrink wrap and fold it in half. And then we'll cut it with our wire cutters. And we'll slide the shrink wrap onto the butt connectors. Now, before we slide this back, I'm going to take some silicone, food grade silicone, and squeeze it into the end of the butt connector, and just slide the shrink wrap over the butt connector until we can see the end of the butt connector on the other end of the shrink wrap. Now, I've clipped the Molex plug off of the old Bi-metal, so we're going to prep that by removing about 1/4 inch of the insulator and twist our wires, and we'll get that into the butt connector. And we'll crimp that one. Then we'll get a little silicone on this side. And we'll slide our shrink wrap back over the butt connector. And when you have the butt connector pretty much centered in the shrink wrap, we're going to take either a lighter or a hair dryer and get some heat on this shrink wrap so that it closes down around the silicone and the butt connector. That way you don't get moisture in there obstructing your connection. And then you can take a paper towel and remove the excess silicone, or you could just leave it on there. Doesn't really matter. Now you have a nice waterproof connection. You're going to do the same thing on the other wire. The only thing that's going to be a little bit more difficult is you're going to be dealing with a wire that is hanging and connected to the cabinet. So we've got the shrink wrap pulled back just enough so we can crimp this side. And now we'll prep the wire that is hanging off the back of the cabinet about a 1/4 inch of the insulator removed. Insert into the butt connector. Make sure your wire is in and crimp. Then we'll apply a little silicone to this side. And we'll slide the shrink wrap back over. And we will take our heat source and we'll heat up that shrink wrap so that it shrinks right around. Now we'll take our bi-metal and we'll feed it in between the 2 tubes coming off of the evaporator. And we'll get it into the retainer clip on the back wall. And then bring the other wire behind the suction line. And then take our bi-metal and clip it onto the suction line, like so. And then reconnect the Molex that goes to the heater. Like so. And your bi-metal is installed. We can now reinstall the evaporator cover panel. We're going to slide it in place. Plug in our Molex. Make sure that both the clips are clipped. Raise it up and we'll fit the bottom into the hole and rotate the cover back, and then we will install our 2 1/4 inch screws. And the cover is installed, and now we can reinstall the shelf. We're going to slide it in on an angle, bring it up to the holes that we want it in on the left, and then slide the shelf into the holes and drag the right side down to meet the holes on the right and move the shelf to the right. And the shelf is installed. That completes the repair. Thank you for watching another quality video brought to you by ApplianceVideo.com.